Hey folks, we're here working on our model railroad bench, and just want to talk about a few problems in production. So many times on the books and websites you look at on a bench, it's like, hey, I bought some boards, I put a bench together, and you might see one or two photos as they're working on it, and then you see the glamour shot at the end when it's done. It looks great, but along the way there's probably some things have happened that they may or may not mention, and if you can engineer them out of your plan or take care of them when they do surface during the evolution, you're gonna have to address those problems. So it's a challenge, actually. It's a challenge and an opportunity. The challenge on this layout was we cut all the legs to mostly the exact height that we thought we needed. And then along the way of cutting 12 legs, 14, I don't know however many there are. One of them ended up a little bit tall. So when we get everything nice and level and start to put in the last board, we've got this little booger sticking up right here, which puts the table high. If it's on the outside, I maybe could have just, okay, that corner's gonna be a little high, don't care. But since this section of Benchwork attaches to this section, in order to, the tabletop won't lay flat over that little bump, so it rises up, ends up putting it too high on the adjoining table. So the only way to adjust that is to raise every other leg, or to take this one off and cut the top of it. Now it can rewind. When you're planning, maybe don't cut them to 32 1/4 inches. Maybe cut them to 32 inches. And then just, you know, leave a little gap. You could get a little spacer, a little shim, a little piece of wood or something and put it in there. And every time I put it in, I'm gonna leave a little 1/4 inch gap. And then if you have some legs that aren't the right height, you could adjust from there, because it doesn't have to be exactly to the top. There's plenty of material in this 1x4 that it could be down a little bit. So now I have to take this off, go back to the saw, trim the top off, and come back and put it in, and we can lower this edge, this corner of the table, and get the alignment we want. So of course, when I go to take out the screw, one of them is stripped, it's cammed out, and it's halfway in the wood, so it's stuck. The way to get these screws out is take your vice grips, grab it, and just use that. Now let's talk about screws for a minute. We like to use exterior grade wooden deck screws. They last forever, and they have a little star drive head that works great in a irregular drill bit. The bit doesn't slip out and screw up the head. We put almost 5 pounds of screws into this structure. It's about 12 by another 3 or 4. And out of those hundreds of screws, I think I had 3. I think I had 2 that stripped out. And then I had one where the star drive head, there was some kind of flotsam or jetsam in the head of the screw, and so those got tossed. And if they start to strip, or you think there's even an inkling that it might have stripped a little bit when you put it in, go ahead and back out, throw it away, and get a new screw. You know, why do we use, so star drive heads versus a Phillips. So the star drive, the bit just grabs better. We put in miles of dock at our last place, and that's all we would use. Exterior grade, they're gonna last forever. Stainless, too expensive, that's overkill. Now on the, another problem you run into is you gotta wear the right gear. You might think, oh, I'm only putting a few in. I don't need gloves. I don't need glasses. And then you're going back in the house looking for a Band-Aid because the drill slips and you put a little nick in your finger. So we found the gloves are great because you got splinters, you got sharp metal, you got things turning. So it's, we like gloves for that. And then another tip, talking of splinters, the edges of this plywood will be raw. So when we're done, we like to take a little piece of blue tape, cover up that splintered edge. You could run a router or a piece of sandpaper over it, smooth it down, but with plywood, there's always going to be some kind of splinter looking to grab you as you walk by working on your layout. In fact, I'll show over here on this raw edge we haven't put tape on yet, so that's what you could end up in your finger. Don't want that. Now eventually you're thinking, well, I'm going to put a fascia board on here, I'm not going to get splinters. Well, that's still a ways down the road. So while you're putting track and scenery and running a locomotive or something, having fun, then you want to not spend this little bit of spare time you do have off looking for band-aids. And let's see, we said we had 3 sections. Let's jump to this. So to connect the 3 sections for stability, we just put, all it takes is 1 or 2 screws that run through this board into the 1x4 section next to it, and this thing is stable. You could land a helicopter on it. And once again, these star drive screw heads are very easy to remove. And those of you not familiar, let me grab one. See if it'll show up on camera. So the head of the screw looks like that versus your basic Phillips. Or Lord help us if we ever tried to use just a standard slot to put something like this together. These are all tips Skipper learned with her theater degree background, putting sets together for play. And then when the set goes together, it's got to be taken down after the last performance called the strike. And if you could imagine being out there with the hammer or trying to pull out a slotted drive screw or whatever, you probably wouldn't want to do theater anymore. So that's the tip she gave me after she watched me trying to pound nails into a swing set I was building. She saved me. She came out and shook her head and said, come on, jarhead. Took me to the store, bought me a cordless drill with the star drive bits, and she said it was her Mother's Day present. So, you know, God bless you, Skipper. You saved me out of so many scenarios. So those are a few tips we call problems in production, things that you can either deal with if they show up, or you can plan in from the day before, as you're in the planning stage. You're in the concept and design phase of how you want to build it. And let's say you want to add a chunk on or take a piece off later because you decide you need room to put a sunfish sailboat in here and you need a foot gone off of that. You come in, remove screws, cut pieces, put the little sideboard back on, and it just takes minutes instead of hours. So that's where we're at on this stage. That does it.